Well, thank you, and good morning. It's really good to be with you, and I'm especially conscious that I'm here on the first Sunday after Hayley has left. No pressure. And I want simply to begin by saying that we here at St Andrews are hugely committed to you. I'm really proud that you worship here in this church alongside us, and at St Andrews, at the Anglican congregation, we very much feel that you're completely part of our worshipping community. So I want to begin by assuring you that through whatever transitions you go through in the coming months and years, we're absolutely with you, and do please come to me and talk things through with me when I can be of any support to you, because it's wonderful to have you with us. Okay, it's important, all right? The second thing I need to say is simply an apology that I will be whizzing off straight after my sermon, and that isn't because I dislike you after everything I've just said. It's just that I mistimed the rotas, and I'm down to do the 10:30 at St Mary's, and I'll need to scoot off and take the service there. So I do apologise for my absence after my own sermon, and I'm sure I'll have a chance to catch up with you all properly another time. I'm going to take as my text today, predictably enough, the words that are set for the Anglican services today, and they are words from the Gospel according to Saint, wait for it, the Gospel according to St John. It's the story of Lazarus, and the context is that Lazarus has died and news has reached Jesus, and so we have these words. Jesus, greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, already there is a stench because he has been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus looked upwards and said, "Father, I thank you for having heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I have said this for the sake of the crowd standing here, so that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said this, he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet bound with strips of cloth, and his face wrapped in a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." The words "come out" have perhaps come to have a slightly different connotation in our society to the ones that they had when the Gospels were being written. I used to work in the gay community for many years, and coming out was, as you know, that moment when you reveal your sexual identity to the world. And it's more than just revealing who you are as a sexual being. With it came all sorts of risks and all sorts of new ways of living, as people risked rejection from their families, rejection from their religious communities, and sought a new way of life. The phrase "coming out" was more than just a description. It was a recognition that there would be risks, that there would be a new pathway ahead for the person who spoke the words. It's a very interesting interpretation of the words "come out" that are found in the gay community, and if we think through that interpretation, we realise that in today's scriptural reading, there are actually 3 figures who come out today. There's Lazarus, who comes out of the tomb, literally comes back to life, having been wrapped in the cloths of death and emerging out of the tomb. He comes out, and his life will never be the same again. He comes out into the full glare of a world that knows full well that he had died, that a miracle had taken place, that this man Jesus had performed extraordinary deeds, and his life from then on must surely be one of witness and of commitment. And there's a second figure, of course, who is invited to come out in this story, and that is God himself. Jesus' prayer before the miracle is really interesting. He prays that God will reveal himself, that Jesus' actions will be the source by which God can show his glory. And God complies with the request. God answers the request. And so God does indeed reveal yet more of his glory to the people than they have previously witnessed. God comes out in the full glare of the spotlight to allow the people to see the wonders of his works and the greatness of his deeds. And the consequences for God are surely great in that moment too, as new people come to believe, as those who gathered around the tomb saw the immensity of God's power. And then, of course, there's Jesus, because part of what's happening in this miracle is that Jesus is revealing who he is in relation to the Father, in relation to the people. By bringing a man back from the dead, Jesus shows his own tremendous power to heal, even to defy death itself. And in doing so, in revealing to crowds who may have been excited, but also may have been frightened and even hostile, he sets in train a sequence of events that will ultimately lead to his own death and to his own resurrection, as he must face the crowds who from then on will see him either as the source of all their hope or the source of their most deep and profound fears and angers and hostilities. And so, with the words, "Lazarus, come out," Jesus reveals three things. He reveals the glory of God. He encourages Lazarus to reveal something of the miracle of God. And he himself declares to the world who he is. The words, "come out," hold huge power way beyond the gay community. They hold power for us. They hold power for our world. In the Anglican Church in this diocese right now, there is a Bishop's Lent appeal, and it's aimed at people who are persecuted, women who are experiencing trafficking in our society, and also at women who are in abusive relationships and struggling to get out. One of my roles in Soho was also to work alongside women who were trapped in abusive relationships and those who had fled abusive relationships. And I can imagine myself saying to those women, come out from that place of desperation, come out from that place of violence, and take the unbelievably courageous step of knowing that there is really new life ahead for you, that there really is new hope beyond the difficulties and the pain that you have experienced. Come out into a world of freedom, of life, of hope. And I think the words perhaps hold power for you also today in your particular circumstances as you say goodbye to Hayling and as you begin to emerge into a new future. I'm acutely conscious as a Christian leader, as any leader, that there are certain ways in which I, as a priest, release the congregations to express something beautiful and wonderful of themselves. But I'm also acutely conscious that there might be people who feel that they're not so empowered by my leadership, who feel that their particular expression doesn't quite come to the fore. And every Christian leader who comes in releases, but also contains in some ways. It's both gift and there's failing on all our parts, or not even failing, just differences of character. And I know that Hayling gave you tremendous gifts when she was your minister. She dared you to come out into fullness of life in ways that perhaps most of us would have been afraid to challenge you to do. And she herself, through her courage in coming out to the world about her health issues and about the truth of who she was, showed something of the immense courage and beauty and grace of God in gifting new life even when there's been challenge. And I'm very conscious that just right now, as you enter this new phase of your ministry, there will be things in you, beautiful things that are even now welling up, that can be released and come out, now that there is a change in your circumstances, now that perhaps new people are being invited to come forwards to minister, now that you are praying afresh for God's call upon your lives in this community and beyond. And so, just as Lazarus was summoned out into a world to proclaim the gospel afresh, and just as Jesus revealed himself in all his fullness and his glory, so at this time of change and transition for you, I encourage you to dare to come out. Come out into the fullness of who you are in God's love. come out in all of your richness and wonder. Celebrate that richness and wonder of your gift to the gospel with us as Anglicans, with the wider Hayling community, so that together we can witness to God's resurrection wonder in this world. Amen.
Amen.